My brothers and sisters, I stand before you today with a message of liberation, a message that will set you free from the chains that have held you back for too long. I want you to hear me loud and clear. You have nothing to lose. Not a single thing, not 1 ounce of fear, doubt, or shame can hold you back any longer. Today, I am declaring that it's time for you to rise, step out of the shadow of your past, and walk boldly into your destiny. This is your moment, and you have nothing to lose. So, let me share with you 5 powerful keys that will unlock the door to your future. My brothers and sisters, hear me today. Fear has been trying to control your life for far too long. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough. Fear has been your companion in the quiet moments, whispering lies into your spirit, holding you back from the greatness that God has placed inside of you. But today, I stand here to declare that you have the power to break free from the grip of fear. You have the authority to silence that voice, that negative spirit that's been telling you, you can't, you're not worthy, you'll never make it. That voice is a liar. Let me tell you something. Failure is not a setback. It's a setup for your comeback. Every time you fall, every time you face a challenge, it's not an indicator that you're not called. No, it's proof that you're on the right track. The enemy wants to make you believe that failure is the end of the story. But I'm here to tell you that failure is just a chapter in a book that has not yet reached its climax. Look at the Bible. Look at every great man and woman of God who ever walked this earth. They faced failure. David, the king after God's own heart, failed in the eyes of men. He stumbled and fell, but did God throw him away? Absolutely not. God looked at his heart and said, you are still mine, and I still have a purpose for you. Moses, the deliverer of Israel, failed as a leader. He ran from his purpose. He stumbled in his mission. But God didn't leave him in his mess. God came to Moses and said, I will send you back into the very place where you failed. And this time, I'll make you victorious. And then there's Peter. Peter, the man who walked on water with Jesus. But when the storm rose, he got scared and sank. He failed in front of the disciples. He failed in front of his Lord. But did Jesus leave him on the water to drown? No. Jesus reached out his hand and said, you are not defined by your failure. You are defined by my love for you. Get up and let's go again. You see, failure is not the end. Failure is just the beginning of the process. It's not the stopping point. It's the launch pad. You've got to learn how to use failure as a lesson, not a sentence. Stop letting failure define you and start letting it refine you. When you fall, don't stay down. Don't let the enemy convince you that your fall means you're finished. It means you're learning, you're growing, you're evolving. Every setback is a setup for a greater comeback. The truth is, if you've never failed, it means you've never tried. You can't be afraid to go after what God has placed inside of you. You can't be afraid to chase your dreams, even if it means you might stumble along the way. Think about it. What's the worst thing that can happen? You fail, so what? Do you think God is going to leave you in the failure? He didn't bring you this far to abandon you. You're a work in progress. You are the clay, and he is the potter, and he is shaping you. And sometimes, in order to mold you into something beautiful, God has to allow you to fall. He has to allow you to face moments of doubt, of struggle, of pain, because he's using all of it to prepare you for the next level. But you have to release the fear. Fear of failure will keep you stuck in the same place. Fear will paralyze you, and you'll never move forward, never take that step, never reach for the purpose that God has for you. God didn't give you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So I need you to stand up right now in the spirit of boldness and say, I release fear. I release the fear of failure. You've been holding on to it for too long, but today is the day you let it go. The chains that have kept you bound to the idea that you can't win, it's not your reality anymore. You've got to break free from that old mindset and step into the truth of who you are. Don't let fear keep you from stepping into the promised land. The giants are there, yes, but so is your victory. The opposition is real, but so is your God. And God has already equipped you to overcome everything that stands in your way. He's given you all the tools you need to succeed. You don't need to wait for a better moment. You don't need to wait. So let me ask you today, what will you do with the fear that has been holding you back? Will you allow it to keep you trapped, or will you walk boldly in the freedom that is already yours? I'm here to tell you the choice is yours. You've got nothing to lose, nothing at all, and everything to gain. You don't have time to waste in fear. God has so much more for you, but you've got to let go of what's been holding you back. And that means releasing the fear of failure. Failure is not your enemy, it's your teacher. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So step out, step forward, and trust that God is with you every step of the way. This is your time, your moment, your season. Let go of fear and let faith take over. My brothers and sisters, hear me today when I say this. The moment you begin to understand the power of possibility, your life will never be the same. There's a force on the inside of you, a potential waiting to be unleashed, but it's locked behind the walls of your limited thinking. I came to tell you that the walls are coming down today. What I need you to understand is that possibility is not just some abstract idea. It's the very essence of what God has placed inside of you. We serve a God of limitless possibility. When he spoke, the universe came into existence. When he called Abraham, he didn't just call him out of his father's house. He called him into the impossible. When he called Moses to deliver the Israelites, Moses had every reason to doubt. But God said, I am the God of the impossible, Moses, and I am calling you to something greater than you can imagine. Listen to me. The God you serve is not a small God, and he has not called you to live a small life. You have to stop looking at your circumstances through the lens of limitation. Too many of you are stuck in the prison of it can't be done. You've gotten comfortable living in the realm of what you think is possible, and you've forgotten that you serve a God who specializes in making the impossible possible. You are standing at the edge of a breakthrough, but you're too busy looking at the walls in front of you instead of seeing the door that God has already opened. I came to challenge you today. Stop living within your limits. Stop living within your comfort zone. Stop living in the boundaries of what you can see with your natural eyes. There is a world of possibility waiting for you just on the other side of your fears, your doubts, and your limited thinking. You've got to understand your possibilities are not governed by your past. Your possibilities are not limited by your education, your income, your family background, or even your mistakes. Your possibilities are governed by the word of God. And when God speaks, nothing is impossible. When he says you can do it, you can do it. When he says you're going higher, you are going higher. You've got to believe in the possibility that your future is brighter than your past, that your destiny is greater than your history, that your breakthrough is bigger than your setback. Look at David. David was just a shepherd boy when God spoke a word over his life. His family didn't even consider him worthy enough to be king. They saw his humble beginnings. They saw his youth and they saw his inexperience, but God saw something different. God saw a king, a man after his own heart, a man who would conquer giants, a man who would rule over a kingdom. David embraced the power of possibility. He didn't let the opinions of others define him. He didn't let the size of Goliath stop him. He didn't let the odds determine his outcome. He looked at the giant and said, I don't care how big you are. I don't care how impossible this looks. My God is bigger. And what happened? David defeated the giant because he understood that the power of possibility isn't just about seeing what is, it's about seeing what could be. It's about looking at your present reality and saying, I know this isn't the end of my story. God has something bigger for me. Let me tell you something. God never works in the realm of good enough. God works in the realm of abundantly above all that we can ask or think. So stop limiting yourself to what you think is possible. Stop settling for what you can see with your natural eyes and start seeing through the eyes of faith. Faith says, I don't care how many doors have been closed in my face. I don't care how many times I've been knocked down. I don't care what my bank account says, what the doctor's report says, or what the critics say. I serve a God who makes a way where there is no way. I serve a God who calls those things that are not as though they were. Do you know what that means? It means that your situation doesn't have the final say. Your current circumstances don't have the final word. Your past mistakes don't have the last chapter in your story. God has the final word, and his word is full of possibility. He says you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You are the head and not the tail. You are above and not beneath. You are more than a conqueror through him who loves you. It's time for you to stop seeing yourself as just another statistic, another person who never made it, another dream that got deferred. No, you're a person of destiny. You're a person of purpose. You're a person who has been called to break barriers, to shatter limits, to make a mark on this world that no one can erase. But here's the thing. You have to embrace the power of possibility with your whole heart. You can't let doubt creep in. You can't let fear steal your faith. You can't let the voices of the naysayers drown out the call of your purpose. You have to embrace it with everything inside of you. You've got to move forward with boldness, with confidence, with the assurance that if God said it, it will come to pass. I'm here to tell you today that the only thing holding you back is your own thinking. The only thing limiting you is your own mind. Your potential is far greater than what you've been allowing yourself to believe. So I need you to take the limits off, to throw away the box you've been living in, and to start thinking bigger. Think higher. Dream wilder. Believe that God is able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all you could ever ask or think. Because when you embrace the power of possibility, you will see doors open that you didn't even know existed. You'll see opportunities you never thought you were qualified for. You'll see your life shift in ways that will leave you speechless, because God has a way of turning the impossible into the possible. When you believe in his power to transform your life. So right now, in this moment, I challenge you to step into a new realm of possibility. Look beyond what's in front of you and start seeing what could be. Start seeing what God sees when he looks at you, a champion, a warrior, a world changer, a person destined for greatness. Embrace the power of possibility and watch how God will transform every area of your life. I want you to hear me right now. The past is a weight that you've been carrying far too long. You've been dragging it, trying to move forward, but that weight is holding you back You can't reach for what's ahead if you're still holding on to what's behind. I came to tell you today it's time to let go of the past. It doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter who hurt you, who abandoned you, who betrayed you, or what you lost. The past is gone, and you can't keep living in yesterday's pain. You can't keep letting the wounds of yesterday dictate your actions today. You can't keep letting the failures, the disappointments, the regrets keep you from walking into the bright future that God has already prepared. God has a future for you that is bigger than your history, but you've got to let go of the past. You've got to release it, because that's the only way you can walk in the fullness of the destiny that God has for you. You can go forward if you're still holding on to. Now, I know it's not easy. I know some of you have been carrying the burden of the past for years, maybe even for decades. Some of you are walking around with wounds from your childhood, memories of mistakes you can't undo, relationships that fell apart, opportunities you missed. And every time you try to move forward, you feel the weight of it pulling you back. But I'm here to tell you, today's the day you let it go. There's something powerful that happens when you make the decision to release the past. You see, when you hold on to it, you are chained to it. You are bound by it, and it limits your potential. But when you let go of it, when you forgive, when you choose to move on, you break the chains. You set yourself free. Look at the Israelites. When God called them out of Egypt, he didn't just want to free them from Pharaoh's grip. He wanted to free them from their mindset of slavery. The past that they carried with them wasn't just their physical captivity. It was their way of thinking, their belief that they could never be more than slaves. They had lived in bondage so long, they didn't know how to live in freedom. But God told them, I have a land flowing with milk and honey. I have a promise for you, but you've got to leave Egypt behind. You've got to leave that mindset of bondage, that thinking that you're nothing, that you'll never be anything, that you don't deserve better, because I have something greater for you. Some of you are stuck right now in that same mindset. You're still living in the Egypt of your past. You're still living in the failure and the rejection and the hurt and the pain, and it's keeping you from walking into the promised land. But God is saying today, I need you to let it go. I need you to release the past. The best is yet to come, but you can't get there if you keep living in what's already been. Your past does not define you. Do you hear me? I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you've been. I don't care what mistakes you've made. The moment you decide to let go of it, God says, I am doing a new thing in you. I am making you new. I'm not just going to heal your wounds. I'm going to turn them into something beautiful. Look at Paul. He was a man who persecuted Christians. He was a man who had blood on his hands. He had a past that could have held him captive for the rest of his life. But God didn't allow his past to define him. When Paul had his encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus, he let go of the past, and God used him to change the world. Paul wrote letters to churches that we still read today. He didn't let his past mistakes stop him. He didn't let the shame of his former life weigh him down. He let go, and God used him for his glory. You see, your past is not an obstacle to your future. It's an opportunity for God to show his power. The very thing that the enemy meant to destroy you, God can turn it around and use it for your good, but you have to let go of it. You can't keep holding on to the pain. You can't keep holding on to the shame. You can't keep holding on to the anger. Let it go. I know some of you are saying, but Pastor, you don't know what they did to me. You don't know how much I've been hurt. You don't know how deep my wounds go. And you're right. I don't know your exact pain. But what I do know is that God knows. He knows the depth of your hurt. He knows every tear you've cried. And he has a way of healing wounds that no man can touch. He has a way of turning brokenness into beauty. You've got to trust that the healing is on the other side of your release. The enemy will keep you in bondage if he can keep you stuck in the past. But today, I'm telling you, the enemy has no power over your future unless you give it to him. The power to move forward is in your hands. The power to embrace healing is in your hands. When you let go of the past, you make room for the present. You make room for the joy that's waiting for you. You make room for the peace that surpasses all understanding. You make room for the future that God is preparing for you. And it's a good future. It's a future full of hope, full of purpose, full of destiny. I know that letting go isn't easy. I know there are scars that run deep. But I want to remind you, God specializes in restoration. He specializes in making all things new. And he is ready to restore everything that the enemy has stolen from you. He is ready to heal every broken place in your heart. But you've got to let go of the past. God is saying, let go of it. Let go of the disappointment. Let go of the rejection. Let go of the failure. Let go of the regret. Let go of the hurt. Let go of the fear. Let go and watch me make all things new. You've carried that pain long enough. You've carried that burden long enough. The past is over. It's time to move on. It's time to release it and move into the new thing that God has for you. When you let go of the past, you're making room for your future, and your future is full of promise, full of purpose, full of opportunities that you can't even imagine. So today I'm challenging you, let go of the past and embrace the new thing God is doing in your life. Listen to me, family. Today is the day you stop sitting on the sidelines of your own life and you step into the fullness of what God has for you. You've been waiting for the perfect moment. You've been waiting for the perfect conditions. But let me tell you something. Faith isn't about waiting for everything to line up perfectly. Faith is about stepping out when you can't see the whole picture. It's about trusting God even when the path ahead is unclear. I came to tell you today, step out in faith like never before. You've been hesitating, you've been waiting, you've been second guessing yourself, and I understand. It's not easy to take that first step. It's not easy to move forward when you don't know what's ahead. But here's the thing. God didn't call you to stay where you are. He didn't call you to live in fear, to stay in your comfort zone, to settle for less than what he's promised you. God is calling you to move. Look at the story of Peter walking on the water. Jesus was standing on the waves calling out to Peter. Peter was on the boat, safe and sound, comfortable in the place he knew. But Jesus said, come on, Peter, come out of your comfort zone. Step into the unknown. Step into the miraculous. Come and walk with me. Peter didn't have a guarantee that he wouldn't sink. He didn't have a promise that the waves wouldn't crash. But what he had was the voice of Jesus calling him, and that was enough for him to step out. He stepped out of the boat and onto the water, not because he had all the answers, not because the storm was quiet, not because the way was clear, but because he had faith in the voice of the one who called him. And let me tell you something. If God is calling you to step out, that's all you need to know. You don't need to know all the details. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to trust in his voice, and that's enough to take the step. Now, I know you're sitting there saying, but Pastor, I've tried before. I've taken a step before and I fell. I've trusted before and things didn't work out the way I wanted them to. But I'm here to tell you, falling doesn't mean failure. It means you're still in the process. It means you're still on the way to the promise. Peter didn't stay in the boat forever. When he stepped out, he walked for a moment, but when he saw the wind and the waves, he got afraid and began to think. But you know what happened next? Jesus didn't leave him to drown in his fear. Jesus didn't say, you messed up, Peter. You should have stayed in the boat. No, Jesus reached out his hand and pulled him back up. This is what faith looks like. Sometimes you step out and it feels like you're sinking, but God is right there to catch you. When you step out in faith, you're not stepping out alone. You're stepping into the arms of a God who is with you every step of the way. Even when you can't see him, even when you feel like you're drowning in doubt, he is there, ready to lift you up. He didn't call you to fail. He didn't call you to fall. He called you to victory. And he is right there to walk with you through every storm, every struggle, every challenge you face. And let me tell you something. You cannot sit in the safety of the boat and expect to walk on water. You can't sit back and wait for everything to fall into place. You've got to take the first step. You got to move. Faith is not passive. Faith is active. You don't wait for the storm to stop before you step out. You step out in the storm. And as you move, the storm begins to calm around you. Shout. Because once, many times, pilgrims, my sisters and I, faith is not about having the whole map laid out in front of you. It's not about knowing every step of the journey. It's about saying, God, I trust you enough to move forward even when I can't see the way. I trust you enough to follow where you lead, even if the road looks uncertain. You don't need the whole picture, just the next step. You don't need to know what's around the corner. You just need to know that God is with you. I know there are some of you who are sitting in the boat paralyzed by fear. You've been hurt before. You've been disappointed before. You've been knocked down before. And you're thinking, what if I step out and fail again? What if I step out and everything falls apart? But listen to me. God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. That fear you're feeling is not from God. God has already equipped you with everything you need to succeed. He has already given you the strength, the wisdom, the courage, and the faith to step out and walk on water. And I need you to hear me. When you step out in faith, you will find that the ground beneath you is solid, even when it doesn't look like it should be. The water that was meant to drown you will become the very foundation you stand on. Let me tell you something else. You're not just stepping out for yourself. There are people watching you. There are people who are waiting for you to take that step, because your faith will inspire their faith. When they see you step out, they will have the courage to step out too. Your faith will break chains not only in your own life, but in the lives of those around. Let me tell you something else. I'm promising you this. I'm promising you. God is calling you to something bigger than you've imagined. He's calling you to something greater than you've ever seen. And all it takes is that first step of faith. That step into the unknown, that step into the miraculous. So stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop second guessing yourself. Step out in faith. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to trust that God has it all under control. And when you take that first step, you will see God move like never before. You will see doors open that you didn't know were there. You will see blessings come in ways you never imagined. Because when you step out in faith, you are stepping into the unlimited possibilities of God. You are stepping into the unlimited possibilities of God. And remember this, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So today I challenge you, step out in faith. Take the step, take the leap. God is waiting for you to move. And when you do, he's right there with you. Every step of the way, step out in faith and watch God move on your behalf. Listen to me, family. There is a word in the atmosphere today, and that word is your destiny is greater than your fear. Oh, I need you to get this in your spirit right now, because I believe that there are some of you here who've been paralyzed by fear, held captive by the lies of the enemy. And I've come today to set you free. Your destiny, your purpose, The plan that God has for your life is greater than the fear that's been trying to stop you. Do you hear me? Your future is bigger than your fears. Your destiny is stronger than the doubts that have been whispering in your ear. The God who called you is bigger than the giants you've been facing. The promise that's ahead of you is greater than the pain you've been through. It doesn't matter what the enemy has tried to do to hold you back. Your destiny is calling you, and it's calling you louder than fear ever could. I know there's somebody right now who's looking at their situation, looking at their circumstances and thinking, Pastor, you don't know the fears I have. You don't know the battles I'm facing. You don't know the mountains I'm up against. But I came to tell you, it doesn't matter how big the mountain is, your God is bigger. It doesn't matter how long the road looks, your destiny is already ahead of you. And God is saying, I didn't call you to live in fear. I didn't call you to shrink back. I didn't call you to be intimidated by what you see. I called you to rise up in power and walk boldly into the future I have for you. Let me tell you something. You cannot allow fear to dictate your next step. But God has not given you the spirit of fear. He's given you power. He's given you love. He's given you a sound mind. And I need you to stop letting fear make decisions for you. I need you to stop letting fear decide where you're going and what you're doing. Fear doesn't get to choose your destiny.